Matt Johnson here, J-Man, who crushed me in fishing the last few times we've gone out. Weekly fishing report. Thought we'd hit up with some things that are going on recently. As you can see, we're on the water. I apologize for any audio issues. We do have a plane flying overhead. It's a beautiful day. People are out mowing and cutting their grass. But we wanted to touch base on how we're catching our fish, how things have changed here in the last week, because we've seen some major changes, especially on the bass front. They are post-spawn right now for sure. So the bass are post-spawn. They are no longer up on beds. I'm not seeing anything in the metro really on beds for the most part. You may see a scattered fish here or there, but I'm not seeing, they're not on bed mode. They are post-spawn. We have a couple cool patterns, and then I'll let J-Man talk about how he's dominating me as we talk about what we're catching him on. So for starters, a lot of the fish, bass specific wise, bluegills are on their beds, the sunfish are spawning, the shallows are still booming with activity. You're seeing bass up there, sunfish up there, still some lingering crappies, not as many pike up shallow, they're moving out. But if you want to just go ahead and catch fish, you can still do that up shallow. You don't need to be out off main lake structure. So if you're still fishing from shore, fishing from docks, fishing from beaches, you'll catch fish and do just fine. So those are important things. The most distinct patterns we're seeing right now are bluegill beds, and we're not necessarily targeting bluegills, we're targeting bass, but we've seen a very distinct pattern, which is common, that these bass are finding themselves located on or near bluegill colonies. And I don't necessarily mean they're on top of them, right in the middle of the honeycomb, but they are on the weed edge, cruising around, chasing stuff. So that's an easy way to catch some fish right now. Otherwise, they're moving up onto the inside weed line and rummaging inside the emergent weeds. None of the weeds I'm seeing are up matted on the surface yet, so you can effectively fish them. So let's talk about some ways we're catching these fish. Water temps are in the 70s, mid 70s on some spots, to be honest, so went up a ton in the last week. But I'm gonna let Jack start us off with how we're catching fish, because the number one way we're catching fish right now is the way he's truly kicking my butt.
So actually, we actually have a rod here. You can show it to them if you want. And this is all we're using is a Mr. Twister Kamita and a tarpon hook, right?
Yep.
Tarpon hook with Mr. Twister Kamita. And I've been using this for probably my whole life. And I think every video I make, every tip on how to catch bass, I've always talked about this. It's my favorite. And it works amazingly well, because when you're casting out, it kind of sinks very slowly. So you're kind of giving this fish a lot of time to eat it. And I've probably got, 7 fish today?
Yeah, and you probably have a 20-pound, 22-pound bag for 5. So he's whooping on us. And that chameleon candy has been kind of fun. You can see it, one side is purple, one side's watermelon, and depending on the way the light hits it, it changes color. It does the same thing in the water. And then we're using braided line, 20 or 30-pound braid, and you can see that little knot right there on the line. I don't know if you can see the knot there. We're doing a double uni knot, and we're tying about a 3 to 4 foot section of 10-pound fluorocarbon on there. I think that's critical. The water this time of year is generally pretty clear, so you can use braid as your main line for no stretch, so you can get good hookups. But then I'm using that fluorocarbon leader, and we've seen a difference not using that. And 2500, 3000 series, 4000 series, whatever your preference is. I'm using a Stratic CI4. Of course, Thorn Brothers built me this sweet rod years ago. Still whooping fish on it. 7'6", medium heavy rod, gets it done. Very versatile for wacky rigging. I think you're using pretty much the same setup. I think you had one setup this morning. You're using all monofilament, 10 or 12 pound mono. You can do that as well. I think you caught your 2 biggest fish on that setup. So wacky rigs obviously are catching fish. Don't do anything when you fish them. A lot of anglers want to cast and reel it in. What do? You cast, you leave it alone.
I've caught, oh sorry, you keep going.
Go ahead.
I've caught most of my fish, and like I'll just cast and I'll sit, and I think my 2 biggest fish, it's just sitting and I'm looking around, kind of almost daydreaming, and then I look over and I've got a fish. So I'm not really kind of just casting and jigging out like you're using a jig worm or something like that. But
you're almost dead sicking these things. You just let it sit there and put faith in it, and the fish come over and take it. It works really well. So another presentation that we've done really well on. I've been fishing Lake Minnetonka quite a bit, and we're definitely catching them a variety of ways, but there's been some commonality out there. Wacky rig, of course, is catching a pile of fish. Swim jigs. We shot a show on Friday with Midwest Outdoors, caught a pile of fish on the all-terrain swim jig. and I'm just fishing a variety of different colors. The natural series, there's new colors this year that came out, and I'm putting that Kitech 3.8 on the back. You know, it's got that thin profile middle paddle tail. It swims through the water really well. Really easy bait to fish. You do not have to fish it, like I've said in the past, on a bait caster. You can cast it on a spinning rod, and this can be just a cast and retrieve bait. You can also pitch this into a pocket of the weeds if you think you see a fish. So if you're in 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of water and you see a pocket in the weeds, you can pitch this in there and fish it just like a jig too. So very versatile. Between that swim jig, that wacky rig, they're both crushing the fish. We did flip some baits around a bit. I've had fished a finesse jig a little bit, not quite there yet. A little bit of jig worm fishing, not quite there yet. We're close. I'm still fishing them with those two presentations mainly. Otherwise, I expect things to continue to heat up this week. We're gonna see a bunch more 80-degree weather, probably do some swimming. I think the bite will continue. The bluegills will continue to spawn for sure throughout this next week or so, and then they'll slide out. So it's been a productive week. Hopefully you've been out there, enjoyed the weather, caught some fish, spent some time with family. What do you think? Anything else you got to add?
Have a great weekend.
Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.